Ready? I'll call the meeting to order of the Trona County Commission, July 21st. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Mills?
Here.
Commissioner Chadwick?
Here.
Commissioner Kaufman?
Here.
Chairman Hendry?
Here.
Commissioner Bertolli?
Did Paul call in?
Yeah, we don't need to call him.
Okay. First of all, let me have the Pledge of Allegiance, I guess. Please join me in that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we've got the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we did have on it a first agenda some planning issues, but they were moved to the 4th. We'll hear those on the 4th of August. Public comment. Is there any public comment this evening? Yes, sir.
Tracy Lamont, 9855 Crimson Dawn Road. That sounds like a broken record, doesn't it? So I missed the last meeting, but maybe you can bring me up to speed here real quick. Like, what's the current status of the Trails Heads Lodge up there, the Trail Center Lodge? Is it going to go, or are we still studying it, or?
We're waiting on Warren right now and for the insurance and to see how we're going to proceed.
So that's who it's insured with, is the Wyoming Association of Municipalities, and that's good. So the status of the Ponderosa Shelter.
It's getting close.
So we had some designs, Tracy, and they're being revised. And the contractors revised them right now to meet the requirement. And once we get those, then we'll move forward.
Is it going to be the full size of that pad, or just downsized?
I believe so, with a overhang, I should say.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And Tracy, I think it's September.
Hopefully it's not a gable overhang.
Yeah,
It's
it'll be better for summer use.
Yeah, summer use and for the snowmobilers themselves with the heating room and all that.
So then, the good news is I caught wind that the budget had been approved for some temporary repairs to the shelters at Bear Trail. But you're just going to put some roofing on what's there now, and that's good. They need a Band-Aid before they go any further. But, just personally, I think structural-wise, I brought that up before, those things have been there for so long that, you look at some of the structures down in Colorado and some of those CCC projects, and they're still standing. And somewhere Adams got at that design and built all four of them the same way. That other one would still be standing too if it didn't burn down, but that's the case. The outhouses up there, what a great improvement that was. And I stopped and talked, don't fall over, with Rosser, and that's a good setup there now that they have that covered. You nailed it, I talked to the guy that they brought in that assembled those, because they put that package of two together, you save some money. So on it, and they're a little bit different. The one at the Biathlon Center has a little storage capability in it for him, and so. But I was concerned. Rob said he was going to lock it, and he was concerned about Voyagerism. Don't laugh, but that's what he was using, and that'd be kind of sad, because being able to drive by there like we do at random, back and forth to our place, you see a lot of people over there hiking. And you see a lot of people, with their other diversified activities that they actually sponsor. But that's a great place for an outhouse to be located, right on East End Road for the public use, and just going back and forth to Ponderosa and people going to Crimson Dawn and so forth. And so I did talk with Harry Brubaker a little bit too. I want to give you this update too. Evidently there was some consternation over the kitchen when it was put into the Log Trails Center, and it was an afterthought after he had already got, he being Brubaker, got everything settled out and was ready to pour the monolithic pour, and they decided to put a kitchen in under there. So they put a partial crawl space to accommodate the kitchen and the plumbing for the bathrooms and so forth. And because of the grade on that, the water's not really swelling away from it. It's finding its way into that crawl space, and thus, we have the issue with mold, which should be treatable in there. But I talked to him about the possibility of, putting drain tile in a U from both sides, coming around to the east side and daylight draining off of that on them. But, you're getting a lot of surface water, and the other reason with the septic tank, I think I might have brought this up the other meeting, Joe or Marvin inadvertently knocked the cap off a 12-inch pipe. That's one of the stanchions for the holding tank for the site. And that, my brother and I were by there that particular day, and that water was just going in and it's coming over. So that's an issue that's, it needs to be fixed on them. But Brubaker his thought was, and I about fell over, was to go in and fill all that with sand, take the studs out of the center of that over that crawl space and fill it back up with sand and leave your plumbing in there and, put a floor on it and then address the roof. And I said, how much? He says, about $100,000. I going, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You should be able to put a sump pump in there and put some ventilation in there to try to dry that mess up on it, and then to address just strictly the structural part of it. And is both the front and the back off of that, or just the back on the gables that pulled away? Do you guys know?
We're in the process of figuring out what we're going to do with that.
On them. So that brings me, if you got to tear it down, that's the way it's going to have to be. The economics are going to dictate that. But, that has really become a rallying point, and I think the snack shop and the kitchen is an asset to that whole thing. And without that, you're going backwards rather than bringing it back to the mode that it was actually serving. And the way they build these fast food restaurants and everything else on a pad, so if you know where everything goes, if you plan it right, you can do away with the crawl space and put the plumbing in that thing in advance, and do include a kitchen in that, because, and we've come so far, but the word multiple use, am I right on that one? And, when they renamed that biathlon center, the Casper Mountain Outdoor Center, that's proven to be the case. It's diversity of the use of that thing, and makes sense. It's bringing money into the community and so forth. So when you talk about that with the trail center, we're not just talking about the skiers. And I don't know what the passes were this year, but I remember there were 40,000 the year before, and I think they were headed to 70,000 this year. But the skiers, they're all the way from kids that are just tykes up to a lot of retirees. A lot of retirees, school teachers, so forth, are coming up there, see a few doctors and what have you on their days off getting away. Snowshoe, you got the fat tire bicycle one. That's just in the wintertime. And, my brother and I spend quite a bit of time over there going over to, try to support the place when, and Thomas's were doing a really good job with it. So whatever you do, I can live with you having to do away with the building. I'll compromise here with you, but we need a kitchen in the replacement. Fair enough? That's Tracy's suggestion, and I'm usually pretty close to being on target on a lot of this stuff on them. So at that, I appreciate your extra time tonight, and what a catastrophe at the lake and the mountain. We lost one guy on a motorcycle on Saturday, and had the shooting the weekend before at the lake. So, let's hope like hell. And that was in the county's trailer park. That wasn't a good deal at all. So let's hope like heck we don't have that to be confronted with again soon. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes?
Not on that, separate.
Oh, yeah, anything you want to talk about?
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. Okay, a little short. Paula Thurlman, 9009 Horse Ranch Road, zip 82604. And it's a little intricate, the issue we're having, and so I made some handouts so you don't have to look up plats. What the concern is us local ranchers, farmers, we have a fire hydrant at the end of our cul-de-sac, public road. And the first map, it's huge, and I've kind of highlighted this little area. Our road in front of our house is called Horse Ranch Road. We're a very little subdivision called 8 Mile Horse Ranch. Behind us is a larger one Lisa Burridge put in a couple years ago. But you can see there are 4 plots, and the third plot is 9009 Horse Ranch Road. And at the end of Lot 3 and 4, there's a cul-de-sac. And on this official plat, designed in 2009, it does say Horse Ranch Road is a public road, and obviously, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little fire hydrant at the end of the cul-de-sac. It's 60-foot diameter, which is a norm, and it's used for a turnaround for fire department. And we did have a fire a few years ago out at one of the big ranchers, John Bentley. Luckily, Firehouse Station number 7 was right on top of it. Had a little trouble finding the fire hydrant because if you look at your other attachments I've given you, Lot 4 is farmed. There's not a house. And the farmer is actually farming the cul-de-sac. On the third attachment, I've kind of drawn what it looked like on the 17th last week. We have irrigation pipes above ground coming out, and I did measure them. They're about 66 feet from the property line, which the property line is mine, Lot 3, and Lot 4. And then we have a cul-de-sac. And the hydrant is placed kind of, I have it off center, but it's right there. But basically, if you come down the public road going to the fire hydrant, you have to run over the risers and the above-ground 3-foot pipes that have been put in. Plus, there is a swather and a baler, depending on what time of cropping, if you're doing first or second. Sometimes they're being used. And we're just concerned because right now we do have irrigated land. Lot 4 is irrigated across the northern part. Kenny Waters, he irrigates most of the property. Lot 3, we do, but Lot 2 just had a family move in with kids, and they're not irrigating. Jeff Clark on the corner of 8 Mile and Horse Ranch isn't irrigating either, so we have a lot of brown out there. So I have approached Mike Kegler with Roads and Bridge, and he came out a few weeks ago, very concerned, going to meet with Jason, and their office is very, very busy. And I know this isn't a real important thing. The only thing that would be important is if we have a fire and access to this fire hydrant. And I did personally catch Jason in between meetings for a few minutes. I gave him the plat design, which of course he has all this, and just kind of showed him pictures on my phone. I didn't have time to print them and the issue. And he said he'd check into it. Haven't heard. I have also talked to quite a few people, but most recently I talked to our fire station, which is on Robertson, fire station number 7. The chief was not available, so I did talk to Fire Marshal Matt Gackey, and I showed him the layout. He was going to try to get by, but they have a lot of stuff going on too, so I gave him all this I gave you, and he said for his fire trucks, a cul-de-sac is a turnaround. And sure, he could fit his fire engine, and I can put my car really good in between that irrigation pipe and the swather. But for a big fire truck, it took a lot of room a couple years ago when we had a fire, and it's supposed to be a turnaround. And it was designed when the subdivision was in 2009. We bought property, closed in 2011, but started 2010. And, you know, we were sold with the fact we have a fire hydrant right here. And, you know, for insurance, that is great. they just love that because obviously you can have a better turnaround time. And so I guess I'm coming to you now because we need your help to get involved. As far as planning, I talked to Trish in Jason's office a few times, and she said what happens normally, because you have normally cul-de-sacs in the city, not out in the country, you call the sheriff. And she suggested that. I didn't do anything until the 11th, and he did come out with another deputy, and they looked at it and did call this landowner, and just previously Mike had approached him. He wasn't moving the equipment. He said he would move it. You know, that was the 11th. So I have pictures, and you can kind of see how the cul-de-sac is formed, but all that is formed. I mean, you can't see the hydrant until he did his first cutting, and he had windrows in between. And, you know, if we have a fire, I mean, obviously the fire department is going to save your house, save the people. So I'm just approaching our commissioners, my commissioners, and seeing if you might be able to help us with this. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks. We'll, we can talk about this at some point in time, and we'll look at the information.
Okay.
And talk to planning, and I think that's the district and maybe fire marshal, but it gets into who did the original subdivision out there, and we gotta look
It's-
it over.
Right, and I understand it's very political. I do not hold any political offices at this point. The farmer next to us does, and I've already ran into comments, starting with Rosen Park, Jason's office. CEPI just came out and did the plat. Everyone agrees it's a public road, and it is an access. I mean, the easiest thing the fire department suggested, maybe we need to just regrade the cul-de-sac, find our fire hydrant, and, I mean, it is public. But,
Yeah, and I don't want it to sound political, because it won't be. If it's a plat, it needs to
is.
be in there.
right.
Is
That's
there
how-
a homeowners association, those?
No, we don't really. We had when we bought, because we wanted country, Lisa did come to us and said, hey, we do have a covenant. And, but it's only, actually, the first lot is grandfathered in, so he's really not part of it. It's just the three of us. And, you know, we can dissolve it if we want, which has been suggested. It's been suggested, too, that when we first bought the property and the home, or the property owner on Lot 4, he was going to build a fence across the property so teenagers don't come out and hang out in our cul-de-sac. But my concern was the fire department. We have a hydrant. Oh, they could just crash it down. And then another one is the building of a building out there, and it's right on the cul-de-sac. I mean, he's got 22 acres to the right. None of the rest of us, not that there's a lot of neighbors, but I did draw on the one, the houses we have, you know, from the two that we have on our street to John Bentley's over here, the 9 houses Lisa put in behind us, Kenny Waters, and he has 2 family members that have houses.
And you're in lot 3?
I'm in Lot 3. I touch the cul-de-sac. So there's an electrical box, and you can see I've shown you how, because he has underground irrigation, just like we do and everyone really needs. The only thing is, the property line, according to CEPI, ends right there at the beginning of the cul-de-sac. But his feelings are it ends at the end. I mean, you know, it's a public road. I don't know what else to do.
But it's not a county road, but it's dedicated
No,
to
sir.
the public.
Well, according to the plat, and if you call the planning, she will tell you, Trish, because I went over and over, I went to mapping, all this. Are you sure this isn't a county road? See, actually, we would love to have a county road, because a county road gets cleared of snow, but we're responsible for ours. But
On
she said
8
it
Mile.
is public.
8 Mile is
A county road, correct.
but not Horse Creek Road.
Horse Ranch Road.
Horse Ranch
Right.
Road.
It is a public road, and it does say the reason, I mean, it's for public use. Can't read it. But it's the paragraph, it's the sentence in between. It's the 60 feet wide Horse Ranch Road as shown herein is hereby dedicated to the public for use on public road and installation and maintenance of utilities. And actually, I mean, you can see on the map, there's utility lines going all the way across in case
Right.
these farmers want to sell. But I
but-
mean, it was plotted before we bought, but we're from the Midwest, and irrigation's very important out here, and so we were looking for that, but also fires, and, I mean, we were sold, there's a hydrant there. I mean, you got a road going in, you know, you got Mike came out, made a nice road for us and everything, but, you know, it's being farmed.
Okay,
Okay?
all right.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners,
Thank
for
you.
your time. Good evening.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in public comment? Commissioner comment? Commissioner Kaufman?
I have none tonight, Chairman, thank you.
Commissioner Chadwick?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Milne? And I don't really have anything. We're going to be here tomorrow night at 5:30 for a public meeting on the hospital and Banner agreement, Wyoming Medical Center and Banner agreement. We're going to have it a little configured, a little different, but we'll be on tomorrow. And that's it. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.